The Job Retention Furlough Scheme yet again has been extended, and this time until the 31st of March 2021. Let's just go through all of the details of how it affects you as an employer or indeed an employee. Hi, my name is Simon Misiewicz from Optimise Accountants. I'm here to grow your wealth whilst reducing your tax liability. And in this video, we are going to be talking about the Job Retention Furlough Scheme and how it's been extended until the 31st of March 2021. How does this affect you as an employer? How does it affect you as an employee? Well, this video will go through all of that detail. It is important, if you want to get the latest information, that you read our article. That article will contain all the essential information you will need to understand how the furlough scheme is going to be extended and indeed all the numbers in examples. I have already done the video on this subject already. However, that video was done based on the information we had on the 31st of October. Boy, how time flies, and boy, how information changes so rapidly. It is as though they haven't planned this at all. And that is the problem and the frustration of most business owners and most employees, because it is so fluid. Before, I gave absolute acknowledgement that we had to adapt and change because of the national lockdown. But why so many changes afterwards? I do not understand that aspect at all. Left hand, right hand needs to start working. Now, I have said there's a video that talks about how to make a job retention scheme grant appointment. You can see that above my head right now. I will get my teeth in very shortly. And I talked about how the job support scheme will be coming into play. Now, I have to be honest, even though that video is appearing above my head and the link below this description, when will that come into play? I don't know. And I'm sure many people like you are so frustrated that they don't know either. And that is the problem. We're not sure when these schemes are going to start or going to end. The one thing I would say to you, whether you are an employer or indeed if you're an employee, is to make sure that you understand employment law. And the only way to do that is to use companies for HR specialists or indeed employment lawyers. You can also get ACAS involved in understanding what your rights are on either side, employer or employee. I would always ask you to speak with one another, understand what is going on, and agree upfront what changes you are going to make as a result of the national lockdown and indeed your rights and responsibilities of your pay. Now, I do talk about this subject amongst many other subjects around coronavirus, the job retention scheme, but also in terms of how to generate a business on the side. Now may be a good time for you to think about business planning. How do you create a business that will help you grow your wealth in the future? And indeed, you need to think about tax as well. Well, that portal will be doing you a good service to help you understand all of those essential elements. That is the only place that people can book my time now for a tax consultation. You can call the other tax advisors on our website, but this portal is the only place that you can book my time. And this is for $9.95 and it's a 28-day free trial. So why not give it a try and start to learn how to grow your business tomorrow? Now, when it comes to the furlough scheme, what does that mean? And I've learned from the questions that have been set in the previous example videos. In the November, someone asked, well, can someone be placed on furlough part-time? Well, the answer is yes, really. You could be put on furlough for a period of time. If you are working full-time but moving to part-time, yes, indeed, as long as the employer pays you for the time that you're working. And indeed, then the government will pick up the bills for when you're not working. That is essentially the support that the government are giving. And clearly, if you are able to carry on working, even if you're 5 days a week and you're able to work 1, 2, 3 days even, then the government are going to be delighted that you can do that because it takes the strain off them. So you can either go from full-time to part-time or full-time to no time. And that is all part of the Job Retention's Furlough Scheme. Now, just a note on directors. Another question came through to me. Can I, as a director, be furloughed? Well, the answer is yes. But, and I say but, if you are a director and you have employees and you are ultimate responsibility to those employees, then how can you be furloughed? Because you have a role and a responsibility to that organization, to those customers. So you really couldn't be placed on furlough on that point. However, if you are a director of a restaurant and you have to furlough all of your staff as well, then of course that means that you too should be placed on furlough because there is nothing you can do in that capacity. What can you do to earn money? There are a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention, and people have said, well, can I earn money whilst I'm on furlough? And as long as your employer allows it, you've got to remember that you are going to be paid, whether it's 2,500 or the cap that they've put in place, 80%. That may not be enough for you and your family, so you may decide to go working. And as long as your employer and you have that conversation, then I don't see any reasons why you can't earn outside the capacity of your main job. Again, you do need to speak to, and this is my point about having an employer, an employee, and an HR specialist to help you understand what those rights are. But indeed, you can work as long as the employer allows it. You could be self-employed. I mean, right now we're in winter time, but do people need things doing in the gardens as a construction person? Or are you an electrician on the side and you're able to do work for people? Then you are still allowed to work. There may be other aspects of, starting an online business, whether you're using things like Teachable platform to share your knowledge and education and then charge for it. You can always just stay home and get fit if you should wish. I know I'm trying to do that and I'm making a hash of it with all my injuries. Or indeed you can volunteer. So you could do some pro bono work as well on the side. Now I'll talk about that in a second. Some examples that I've listened to other people talking about is being a delivery driver for Amazon and Uber, etc. It doesn't necessarily need you to do any of these things, but it gives you some ideas of what you can do to get extra money into the household if your employer allows it whilst you're on furlough. You could do some research, blog proofreading for companies, administration, cleaning, and again, as I mentioned, pro bono work. So there are a number of things that you can do to earn money whilst you're on furlough, provided that you and the employer allows it. Now, we need to understand where things we're going to be transitioning from and to. And originally, the Job Retention Scheme or the Furlough Scheme was going to end on the 31st of October. Boy, has things changed. The Job Support Scheme was meant to be kicking in from November. Well, that changed significantly. So we now know that the Job Retention Scheme, there is an endpoint. And the reason why I mentioned that there is an endpoint to this furlough scheme is because it was only going to be paying 70% or a certain cap. Now we have this new Job Retention Scheme, which is going to be paying 80% up to £2,500 as a cap. So it's worth looking at this to understand that it is a separation from the previous furlough scheme. Now we talk about the Job Support Scheme. When is that going to come into play? If the Job Retention Scheme or Furlough Scheme is not going to finish until the 31st of March, boy, when does the Job Support Scheme actually come in, if at all? And I think there has to be question marks over that scheme going forwards. So I have to clarify a few points on this new furlough scheme. There have been a bunch of questions that you've been asking on previous videos. Thank you ever so much for submitting those. In this video, I want to clarify those points, so let's go ahead now. The first question I had was, when will this scheme start? Well, there's been an update, obviously, so we'll just focus on this new particular scheme, and it does start on the 1st of November 2020 and ends the 31st of March 2021. Eligibility. Now, this is a crucial point. Many people have been saying, well, I've been placed on furlough or made redundant. Now, there is very much a big difference there. If you've been made redundant, that means you're exiting your services. It is possible that you've been made redundant in October, but then your employer takes you back on board and then puts you on furlough. So it is possible, but some employees may not wish to do that because of the extra paperwork. There is a holiday entitlement, and there's things like national insurance, pension contributions that they'll have to pay. So not everyone will do it, but you'll need to work with your employers or your previous employer if you've just been made redundant to see if there are any opportunities at all. Now, it does say you need to be on the payroll in October. So as long as you've been on the payroll, then you don't need to be on the previous scheme at all. It needs to be a UK-based business, and the staff cannot be working. Now, interesting enough about that furlough, what it means is that you cannot be working for the time that the government pay you. Back to my previous slide. If you're full-time moving to part-time, then the government will step in and pay for the time you are not working. So what this is just saying is you can't pay someone from furlough via the government whilst you're still working from home. That doesn't make sense at all. Some of the financials, the employees will still pay the national insurance, the bonus, commissions, and indeed pensions. I've missed that point off. The government will pay the lower, notice the lower, of 80% or the £2,500, which is the cap. And we were going to have this £1,000 job retention scheme bonus. That's now fell away because it's been extended, this whole furlough scheme, until the 31st of March 2021. You may have many tax questions about this particular subject. Don't worry, you can book our time at Optimise Accountants to understand this very thing. So make sure you book some time in with us at Optimise Accountants to help you and your business. You can use the code YouTube25, and that entitles you to that 25% discount, which basically means you can have 30 minutes for less than £200. Let's go through an example now of the Furlough Job Retention Scheme. And obviously there's just and job support scheme. Well, we're not sure about where that's coming in. I'm just talking about the furlough course. This example is for someone who is paid £30,000. And you'll notice I've got annualized numbers across the top, but we are going to focus for these examples on the numbers on the bottom. But I want to give you a feel what it looks like on an annualized basis. But you can work those numbers out just by looking at the screen. So the normal pay for someone who's on £30,000 would ordinarily be paid £2,500 per month. Now what we have to do is a calculation of 80% or a cap of £2,500. Fortuitously, if we say, okay, 2,500 times by 80% gives us 2,000. So they are within that cap range. It does mean that employee does not receive this £500. So that is equivalent to 20%, which is obvious, bearing in mind that the government will step in to pay 80% of those wages. This is an example of someone that's been placed on furlough full-time. Okay, so if it's been part-time, whether you're working, then you will be paid by your employer. The time you are not working, you will get the 80% from the government. This is another example now whereby someone is paid £40,000 per annum, and that is the equivalent of £3,333 per month as gross salary. What we need to do is look at the 80% wage or the £2,500 cap, not gap. The £2,500 now kicks in because that is the upper range. So you can't go above that, which now means that this particular employee will not be able to receive this £833. Bearing in mind this is gross, so it's not really net anyway. Now, this means that 25% of the pay will not be received by the employee. Hopefully you found this useful, but if you've got any questions, whether you're an employer and how you go about this scheme and how much you should pay people, then drop me some questions. I may not be able to help you with the specifics. That's probably a need for you to book a tax call. But if you're going through this process, do tell me how you are handling things. Have you used external HR support? And indeed, what kind of conversations you're having with employers. As an employee, what's going on with you and your job security? Are you speaking with your employer? Have you got ACAS or HR support? Do you know the numbers that you are going to be earning? Please feel free to share your experiences and your questions with me, and I'll be able to answer those questions as soon as possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you are notified of every video that we release. Until next time, my name is Simon Misiewicz from Optimise Accountants. I shall see you again soon.